Chapter 71. What do you need a master for with such a protective jade pendant? The master's tone was serious, making Guan Qixin's heart tighten. It really is a ghost. Master, do you have a way to take it away? Before the other party could speak, Guan Qixin said again, Master, don't worry, if you are willing to help, the reward will definitely not be less. The middle-aged master in Taoist robes smiled slightly upon hearing this. In that case, I will try my best. After saying that, he set up an array, set up an altar, performed magic, and was full of posture. Guan Qixin has seen real masters before. That day at the hospital, when he saw Jiang Shushu's move, he felt that she also had real skills. But after the recording was exposed, he naturally couldn't look for her again. At this time, watching the master in front of him set up the talisman paper flew towards the very center of the bed. He was overjoyed, thinking that the female ghost would soon be taken away. However, in the next second, he only felt the temperature in the room drop sharply, and the paper talisman that flew out burned directly in mid-air. Before he could ask, the master beside him changed his face and hurriedly threw out 2 more paper talismans. As a result, the paper talismans quickly burned to ashes in mid-air. The master, who originally had a somewhat otherworldly air, now changed his face directly, and even got angry at Guan Qixin. There's more than one evil spirit in this villa. Why didn't you say so earlier? If he had known it was so troublesome, he wouldn't have taken the initiative to provoke it. Now it's all over. His actions just now directly angered the fierce ghost occupying this villa. Quick, let's go. The master said this, pulling Guan Qixin to escape. Although Guan Qixin was confused, he also understood that he couldn't rely on this master. The two rushed directly towards the door, but just as they were about to approach, the room door suddenly slammed shut. At the same time, Guan Qixin only felt as if something was firmly grasping his feet, and he couldn't move at all. Vaguely, out of the corner of his eye, he seemed to see a familiar figure appearing again by the bed. At this time, that figure was slowly turning around, as if to approach him. Guan Qixin felt his heart jump to his throat instantly, and he breathed rapidly. Seeing the female ghost getting closer and closer to him, her pale hand slowly reaching for his neck, Guan Qixin's eyes widened, and he vaguely felt that he was going to die here today. Just then, the room door was suddenly knocked on from the outside, followed by Guan Baoqing's voice from outside. Qixin? Are you in the room? Guan Qixin felt a joy in his heart, and subconsciously wanted to shout for help, but in the next second he felt an icy hand suddenly stretch out from behind his head, actually covering his mouth. A chilling chill spread from the soles of his feet, causing his whole body to stiffen, and he couldn't even utter a word from his throat. Guan Qixin had never experienced such fear as he did now. His eyes were bloodshot, but his facial features were still extremely clear. He felt something cold pressing against his back. Guan Qixin trembled like a sieve. Tears fell uncontrollably, wanting to ask for help, but he couldn't say anything. At this critical moment, the master beside him suddenly slashed his fingertip, and with a flick of his arm, the blood droplets instantly scattered, and 2 drops happened to fall on Guan Qixin's face. Guan Qixin seemed to hear a scream in his ear. The icy palm that had been covering his mouth also retracted in an instant. Taking advantage of this critical moment, Guan Qixin hurriedly shouted towards the door. Dad, save me. The moment his voice fell, the room door was pushed open. It was Guan's father, who was originally about to leave because he didn't get a response. The moment Guan Baoqing stepped into the room, Guan Qixin could clearly feel the originally cold temperature in the room warming up little by little. Looking again, the master beside him was already sitting on the ground with his finger covered, muttering to himself. That's brutal. This is way too brutal. He lost his shirt on this deal today. How long will it take him to replenish all that life essence condensed fingertip blood he just used up? Sensing the energy in the house again, he discovered that the malevolent spirit that had been causing trouble seemed to have disappeared without a trace. But the master didn't feel relieved at all. He didn't think the spirit was driven away by his fingertip blood. He looked at Guan Baoqing, who had rushed over, and his gaze suddenly fell on the jade pendant hanging around his neck, his eyes slowly widening. What followed was a face full of indignation. President Guan, I thought you sincerely invited me here, but why didn't you tell me the truth? Guan Qixin had barely escaped from death, and when he heard the master's words, his face turned rather ugly. What does the master mean by this? The master immediately pointed to the jade pendant around Guan Baoqing's neck. Since you know a master who can make such protective magical artifacts, why did you come looking for me? Even without me, this protective jade pendant can ensure you're not invaded by evil spirits. Guan Qixin and Guan Baoqing were both stunned when they heard the master's words, and their eyes immediately turned to the jade pendant around Guan Baoqing's neck. That was the jade pendant Jiang Xiuxiu had given to the Guan family before. Although they weren't entirely sure about Jiang Xiuxiu's words, they still found the jade pendant and wore it after returning home. And sure enough, they had much less bad luck. But there were only 2 jade pendants, and Guan Baoqing couldn't always go in and out with Guan Qixin, so he spent a lot of money to find this master to come to their home. But he never expected that this master's skills couldn't even compare to a jade pendant made by Jiang Xiuxiu. Is that dead girl really that powerful? Master, do you mean that if I wear the jade pendant, the female ghost won't be able to find me like she did just now? Guan Qixin's face was also a little gloomy. He really didn't want to experience such an experience again. I observe that the spiritual energy on the jade pendant is indeed like that. The master was angry just now because he felt that he had been played by this family, but now that he thought about it, how could such protective magical artifacts be available to everyone? He really shouldn't have been so aggressive just now. But as a member of the Xianmen, he didn't have the habit of apologizing to people, so he just softened his tone slightly. The evil spirit occupying this villa is no ordinary new ghost. Although I have some skills, I am indeed powerless to deal with such an evil spirit alone. If you want to solve the problem once and for all, you should still ask the master who sold you this jade pendant to take action. The master said truthfully, unaware that the Guan family father and son on the opposite side both had constipated expressions on their faces. How were they supposed to tell him? This jade pendant wasn't bought. If it weren't for these recent events, the jade pendant that Guan Baoqing was wearing around his neck would probably still be collecting dust in some corner right now. Guan Baoqing knew that his son had been plagued by nightmares recently, and didn't object to him finding a master to perform a ritual at home. But could it be that they could only go to Jiang Xiuxiu again? Guan Qixin didn't speak. He was also considering the same question. But after the last time, he wasn't sure if Jiang Xiuxiu would still be willing to help him. Besides, Ruirui probably wouldn't want to ask Xiuxiu for help again. If he couldn't find another reliable master to take action, then he only had one way left: to get the protective jade pendant back from Ruirui first. Chapter 72. The Guan family's dissension. Guan Qixin was truly starting to lose it. If before he had only suffered some mental torment in his dreams, this time he had genuinely had intimate contact with the other side. Just recalling the cold, stiff touch that covered his mouth, Guan Qixin felt a chill run down his spine, the sensation lingering for a long time. Thinking of this, Guan Qixin finally made up his mind. Hospital VIP ward. Guan Ruirui looked at Guan Qixin in disbelief. Brother, you want to take this jade pendant away? Guan Qixin's once handsome face now showed obvious signs of fatigue, but facing Guan Ruirui's hurt look, he tried to soften his tone as much as possible. Ruirui, something happened at home. Brother is just temporarily taking the jade pendant back. Once things are over, I'll return it to you. Guan Ruirui frowned, and before she could speak, Bai Shuqin, who was standing beside her, already spoke. Qixin, it's not like you don't know how unlucky Ruirui is right now. She's relying entirely on this jade pendant to protect her. If you take the jade pendant away now, aren't you just taking your sister's life? Guan Qixin, Mom, how could I not care about Ruirui? But I'm really in trouble right now, you know that. Bai Shuqin didn't understand. Didn't you say you already hired a master to exorcise the ghost at home? If one doesn't work, hire another one. You can always find someone with real skills, but your sister is in such a state right now. She really can't afford to have any more accidents. Qixin, please take care of your sister. Listening to Bai Shuqin's words, Guan Ruirui also looked at Guan Qixin pitifully. Brother, don't you love me anymore? Guan Qixin was a little annoyed. If it were anything else, he would have given in. After all, his sister was someone he had doted on since she was a child. But now it was a matter of his life. I'm not just taking it away completely. I'm just taking it back for a couple of days. Once I find a master in a few days, I'll return it to her. Annoyed, Guan Qixin's tone lost its usual patience. Guan Ruirui immediately lowered her head, looking aggrieved and sad. Bai Shuqin felt even more sorry for her. Guan Baoqing was the person in charge of the company. The family and the company both depended on him. He absolutely couldn't have anything happen to him. So his jade pendant couldn't be taken. But a son and a daughter were both flesh of her flesh. It wasn't like Bai Shuqin didn't love her son, but her daughter's situation was more serious at the moment. Not to mention her son's poor condition. Her own condition hadn't been good these past 2 days either. If she could, she would also want a jade pendant to protect herself, but she didn't have one. Qixin, why don't you think of another way? Go to a Taoist temple for a couple of days, ask for a safety charm? If that doesn't work, ask that dead girl Jiang Shushu for 2 more jade pendants? Bai Shuqin thought that it was just right for her to ask for another piece as well. And at this moment she forgot that she had promised Guan Ruirui to help her sue Jiang Shushu for fraud. Guan Ruirui, who was standing nearby, already opposed as soon as she heard this. Mom, Jiang Shushu has harmed me so badly, and now the internet is full of people scolding me. Why are you still thinking of looking for her? Have you forgotten that you promised to help me sue her? Guan Qixin originally thought that if it really didn't work out, he would have to shamelessly go back and find her again. When he heard Guan Ruirui's words, he immediately frowned. You still want to sue her? Ruirui, don't you know what the situation is at home now? The family may still need to ask her to help solve the problem. If you sue her now, wouldn't that be forcing her to completely oppose our family? Guan Qixin's tone was a bit harsh, and Bai Shuqin immediately became dissatisfied. Just talk. Why are you being fierce to your sister? She doesn't want this either. Wasn't it Jiang Shushu, that little bitch, who harmed her first without showing any consideration? Guan Qixin sneered. She's not showing any consideration? Isn't that because the family first plotted to switch her fate? If the family had been willing to raise her properly in the first place, instead of plotting against her, with her current ability, I don't believe she wouldn't be able to help Ruirui, to help the family. When Bai Shuqin heard this, her face was full of disbelief. Are you blaming me now? That dead girl was able to remain silent until today, even knowing that we wanted to use her to switch fates. She's just scheming. If you ask me, she learned those feng shui skills just to deal with our family. Do you really think she would sincerely be willing to help us? Guan Ruirui, hearing this, started to act pitiful again. Mom, don't say that. It's all my fault. I've harmed the family, boohoo. Seeing this, Bai Shuqin hurriedly turned her head and started comforting her again. Guan Qixin was already annoyed. He was already entangled by a female ghost, so he didn't have the mood to continue comforting his sister. He turned around impatiently and left without looking back. Seeing his attitude, Guan Ruirui cried even more vigorously. Let's not talk about how the Guan family was becoming more and more divided because of the distribution of the 2 jade pendants. Jiang Shushu redecorated her room, and then remembered the little infant spirit still floating around in the house. After thinking about it, she decided to take it to see Lin Ruirui for the last time. However, as soon as the car drove out of Yinjing No. 1 courtyard, it was suddenly stopped by someone. Looking up, it was Pei Yuancheng, who she had previously rebuked. Pei Yuancheng had a car accident halfway after breaking up with Guan Ruirui last time, and had been in the hospital for a few days. Although he was discharged from the hospital, he still had his arm in a sling. At this moment, standing in front of the car, combined with his injuries, he looked a little pitiful. Shushu, I have something to tell you. Hearing the other party's call, the driver subconsciously turned his head and asked, Miss this? Ignore him, just drive past. Jiang Shushu felt that she had nothing to say to Pei Yuancheng, and it was even more impossible for her to get out of the car to continue listening to his nonsense. Seeing the young Mrs.'s attitude, the driver immediately understood. With a cold face, he signaled the security guard of the villa area to pull the person away, and was about to start the car again. Pei Yuancheng tried to break free from the security guards, but there was no way he, a weakling, could get rid of the Yinhang No. 1 security guards. Seeing that the car was about to leave, he didn't care about the dignity of the Pei family's young master and shouted desperately, "Susu, I've already broken up with Guan Ruirui. What more do you want me to do? Susu, I don't believe you have no feelings for me at all. If you really didn't like me, why were you chasing after me every day back then? Jiang Shuxin, you were the one who provoked me first. Now you want to dump me without saying a word? Or is it that now that you've become Miss Jiang, you look down on everyone else?" His voice was loud enough to make the low-key Maybach that was about to leave the park stop slightly. Inside the car, the driver whispered, "CEO Chu, it looks like the Jiang family's car is ahead." Chu Beijiao, who was sitting in the back seat, raised his eyes slightly. His dark eyes were indifferent and calm as he looked ahead. He happened to witness the scene of Pei Yuanqing's entanglement. Thinking of the little girl from the Jiang family, Chu Beijiao's expression remained unchanged, but he opened his mouth too noisy. "Have the security guards handle it." The driver was a little surprised that his boss would interfere in such a matter, and was about to raise his hand to signal the security guard in the guard booth. But before he could speak, he saw the Jiang family's car in front suddenly stop. Immediately afterward, the driver waved at Pei Yuanqing. The security guard immediately released Pei Yuanqing, who quickly ran to the back seat of the car. He first leaned down and said something to the person in the back seat, and then a smug smile appeared on the boy's face before he got into the back seat. The car sped away. Chu's driver was stunned and carefully turned his head to look at his boss. Chu Beijiao had obviously seen the scene just now. A pair of deep eyes were dark and unclear, and finally turned into a trace of mockery at the bottom of his eyes. In just an instant, he returned to indifference. He coldly ordered, "Let's go." Chapter 73, Grandma's Good Grandson. On the other side, after successfully getting into the back seat of the Jiang family's car, Pei Yuanqing looked at Jiang Yuxiu, who was sitting next to him. The burning and affectionate gaze in his eyes almost materialized. Jiang Yuxiu flipped through her phone without even looking up, and said coldly, "If you keep staring at me with such a disgusting look, you might as well not have your eyes." Pei Yuanqing. He thought she was finally playing hard to get before letting him get in the car. But she still had this attitude. Did she really never like him? Thinking of this possibility, Pei Yuanqing quickly denied it 3 times in his heart. Impossible. If she didn't like him, why did she chase after him in the first place, and why would she let him get in the car? Pei Yuanqing still felt that she was angry about his engagement with Guan Ruirui. Thinking of this, he slowed down his tone again. "Yuxiu." When Jiang Yuxiu heard his tone, she finally couldn't help but turn her head. "Don't you want to know why I used to follow you around every day? I'll take you to see the truth now." She really wasn't in the mood to continue to entangle with this stupid scumbag. Pei Yuanqing didn't believe her at all when he heard that she was going to take him to see some truth. What other truth could there be to a woman chasing after a man other than love? Pei Yuanqing just thought she was still unwilling to face her own heart. Seeing his obvious disbelief, but also the "I'll play along since you want to pretend" look, Jiang Shuxiu didn't bother to say more, silently letting the driver drive the car forward. As the car got closer and closer to its destination, Pei Yuanqing's expression became a little strange. Until the car finally stopped in front of a villa, he finally looked at Jiang Shuxiu, a teasing smile in his eyes. "Shuxiu, did you have me get in the car just to send me home?" "That's right." The address Jiang Shuxiu had the driver go to was the Pei family's address. When Pei Yuanqing saw the destination, his eyes were filled with a smug smile, and there was a confidence between his brows that he had everything under control. Jiang Shuxiu didn't waste words with him. After the car stopped, she got out and walked inside. The Pei family's nanny saw the young master behind her and consciously opened the door. Jiang Shuxiu walked in without any hesitation, not at all restrained like someone visiting someone else's home for the first time. Pei Yuanqing also followed behind her with an all-encompassing expression, exuding a sense of ease as if he were back on his home turf. But gradually, he felt that something was wrong, because Jiang Shuxiu went straight upstairs after entering the door, and went directly to the last room on the second-floor corridor. But she had clearly never been to his house before. Just as Jiang Shuxiu's hand was about to touch the doorknob, Pei Yuanqing finally couldn't help but speak. "Shuxiu, you can't enter this room." Jiang Shushu put her hand on the doorknob and turned to ask him, "Why? Because this is your late grandmother's room?" Pei Yuanqing's pupils trembled suddenly. Before he could think about why she knew, Jiang Shushu had already pressed down on the doorknob without hesitation and opened the room. A dry, musty smell wafted out of the room, because it had been uninhabited and uncleaned for a long time. Even with the doors and windows closed, the room was covered in a layer of dust. Pei Yuanqing's face immediately turned ugly. His grandmother had passed away more than 2 years ago, and his family rarely mentioned her anymore. Even he hadn't paid attention to this room for a long time. But for him, his grandmother had always been a very important person in this family. Jiang Shushu's behavior was actually a bit offensive. Pei Yuanqing was unhappy, but he didn't blame her after all. He just softened his tone. "Shushu, you know this is my grandmother's room, so don't go in. I can take you to my room." Hearing this, Jiang Shushu just rolled her eyes at him. "Didn't you want to know why I kept following you during that time? The answer is in this room," she said as she walked into the room. "It was your grandmother's soul who found me and asked me to watch over you." Pei Yuanqing never expected to hear such an answer. So bizarre that it was laughable. "My grandmother's soul. Shushu, even if you want to deny your feelings for me, you don't have to use such lies." The rest of his words were cut short when he saw Jiang Shushu suddenly pull out a yellow talisman from her backpack and throw it. He saw the yellow talisman thrown into the air, and then it stood upright in mid-air. Immediately after, he heard Jiang Shushu murmur something under her breath. "Tayin Yuming, quickly manifest in spirits, look up and see, bow down and listen. I obey the decree, appear before me." As her voice fell, Pei Yuanqing saw the yellow talisman floating in midair suddenly ignite without fire. The green flames dancing in the dark room quickly extinguished in an instant. But just as the flame went out, Pei Yuanqing vaguely felt a change in the temperature in the room. The next second, he saw Jiang Shushuan suddenly turn around, as if scattering some talisman ash towards his eyes. Pei Yuanqing covered his eyes. "Jiang Shushu, what trick are you playing now?" He rubbed his eyes and finally managed to open them again, but his pupils widened suddenly the moment he saw the scene before him. In the once empty room, a familiar short, stout figure was slowly materializing, none other than his grandmother, who had passed away 2 years ago. The somewhat stout old lady looked a little dazed as she appeared, but she quickly glanced around, recognized the room she was in, and couldn't help but exclaim in annoyance, "Oh dear, how did I come back again?" Turning her head, she saw Jiang Shushu standing in front of her, and her eldest grandson standing at the door, her eyes widening in surprise. "Oh, my good grandson. And the Guan family girl? Guan family girl, did you call me up here? Why are you suddenly looking for me? Don't tell me my grandson has been Chansang entangled by something again." Although the old lady was in a soul state, she was clearly quite spirited. Her expression even showed some indignation when she said the last sentence. Pei Yuanqing at the door was completely numb. What exactly was going on? And what did she mean by being Chansang entangled by something? Jiang Shushu didn't waste any words, and directly pointed at Pei Yuanqing at the door, saying to the old lady, "Your grandson has been bothering me about what happened before, so I brought him here, hoping you can explain the cause of the matter back then to him." The old lady was stunned at first, then looked at Pei Yuanqing again, this time meeting his gaze directly. Her wrinkled, loving face immediately showed a look of delight. "Oh, my good grandson, you can see me." Pei Yuanqing felt a chill run down his spine. His heart trembled, but meeting that familiar loving gaze, he subconsciously showed a little dependence, calling out in a hoarse voice, "Grandma." Hearing her grandson call her again, the old lady was immediately moved and floated towards him. Although Pei Yuanqing felt that his grandmother was floating a little strangely, he couldn't resist missing her, and subconsciously opened his arms, wanting to hug this relative who had loved him since he was a child again. Then the old lady floated toward him, seemingly touched, but just as she was about to get close, her face suddenly fell. A gust of wind slapped directly onto her good grandson's face, accompanied by a questioning voice. "Don't mess around. Speak. What's this about you pestering the Guan girl?" according to what she said. Chapter 74. Almost became a sacrifice to an evil god. Pei Yuanqing was clearly stunned when the yin wind hit his face. It wasn't so much that the yin wind hurt, but rather, apart from feeling a bit cold, he didn't feel much at all. He was just dumbfounded by his grandma's sudden change of face. This. She likes me. She used to follow me around every day. Pei Yuanqing realized for the first time that his mouth was so clumsy. Jiang Xiushu didn't bother to look at him, her delicate face full of frost. The old lady looked at her grandson's attitude, and then thought about what Jiang Xiushu had just said, and immediately understood, feeling a bit disappointed in him. The Guan girl followed you before because of me, because of my relationship with her grandma. She was helping me take care of you. How could she like you? The old lady spoke bluntly, and Pei Yuanqing was stunned again. Take care of me? You asked her to? Even if Pei Yuanqing wanted to deny it, he couldn't doubt his grandma's words. It couldn't be that Jiang Xiushu specially pulled his grandma into act in order to deny her feelings for him, right? His heart instantly sank. Grandma, what exactly is going on? Why? He didn't understand why his grandma, who should have died, didn't go to reincarnate, but instead found someone to take care of him. And judging from Jiang Xiushu's abilities, she obviously understood the mystical arts. What could be the reason for such a person taking care of him? The old lady saw that her good grandson looked like he had been hit hard, and couldn't bear to be too harsh on him, so she could only tell him what had happened before. It turned out that after the old lady died, she never left because she was always thinking about her loved ones. Her soul had been lingering in the room, occasionally watching her son and grandson at night. Even if they were unaware of her presence, she still wanted to catch a few more glimpses of them. Until one day, more than half a year ago, she discovered that her grandson had somehow become tainted with yin energy. Moreover, it wasn't just any yin energy, but yin energy that seemed to be imbued with a death curse. Although the old woman was a ghost, she was a new one, and having been staying at home enjoying offerings, she had no real power. Watching her grandson being plagued by yin energy, the old woman was anxious but didn't know what to do, so she could only follow her grandson to and from school every day. That's how she unexpectedly met Jiang Xiushu at school. Jiang Xiushu initially thought the yin energy on Pei Yuanqing came from the old woman, and kindly offered a few words of advice. After all, there were many cases where people lingered around their loved ones because they couldn't bear to leave, causing the other party to become tainted with yin energy. Unexpectedly, because of her meddling advice, the old woman latched onto her. Knowing she was the daughter of the Guan family, she even brought up her friendship with the deceased old woman of the Guan family, eventually persuading Jiang Xiushu to help her grandson resolve the yin energy on his body. Fortunately, I met the Guan family girl at that time. She understands these things, and I could only ask for her help, the old woman said. At that time, you didn't know what you had provoked. That yin energy was like a mark imprinted on you. When the time came, it would cause you to die a sudden death, and the other party would take the opportunity to seize your body. Pei Yuanqing never imagined that there was such a sinister matter behind it all, and he was completely unaware of it at the time. No, that's not right. During that time, he did feel that his overall condition was not good. He often felt like he couldn't sleep well, and his body was inexplicably cold. But at the time, he didn't really take it seriously, thinking that he might have been haunted by evil spirits at the time. Pei Yuanqing felt a chill in his heart. What was that thing? Is it still around? The old woman looked at her grandson with love, her eyes full of tolerance. With the Guan family girl around, it was naturally taken care of. Otherwise, Grandma wouldn't be able to queue up for reincarnation. Seeing that Pei Yuanqing clearly believed her at this point, Jiang Xiushu then took over. What you were tainted with back then was not an ordinary ghost, but an evil god. These kinds of evil gods usually reside in sculptures or enshrine small statues, and they generally don't directly harm people's lives, but rather seek offerings. It's just that unlike the offerings to ordinary righteous gods, the offerings required by evil gods are much more demanding. At first, it might just be small dead things like chickens and ducks, but gradually, it will require the host to offer live animals, in order to suck their flesh and blood. When its power grows, it will demand that the offerings be changed to large live animals such as pigs and sheep. As the host wants more, the evil god's demands will also increase, until it starts killing. Unfortunately, Pei Yuanqing had provoked an evil god that had been offered to and had already taken several lives. I guessed at the time that the evil god you encountered was abandoned by its masters because it had claimed too many lives, and they didn't dare to continue worshipping it. Evil gods become even more ferocious after harming people, coupled with the anger of being abandoned by their masters. As Jiang Xushu spoke, her gaze turned to Pei Yuanqing. It just so happened that you ran into it, and you might have left your blood behind at the time. Hearing this, Pei Yuanqing's face turned deathly pale, and he seemed to have realized something. His voice trembled slightly. I went hiking with my classmates before, and I accidentally fell on a stone sculpture and cut my palm, thinking that he might have fallen on an evil god at the time. Even knowing that the matter had been resolved, Pei Yuanqing couldn't help but feel lingering fear. Jiang Xushu nodded. That evil god was already ferocious and defaulted to taking you as its offering, so it marked you. I was watching you for a while before I waited for it to appear. It's just that your grandma was afraid of scaring you, so she didn't let me tell you the truth. As Jiang Xushu said this, she couldn't help but glance at the old lady beside her. Just because the old lady pleaded with her not to let him find out, Jiang Xushu didn't pay much attention, even though she knew there were some rumors in the school. But she never expected that she would be pestered by him because of this. If she had known earlier, Jiang Xushu would not have listened to the old lady's plea, and would have let him feel the enthusiasm of the evil god for him. The old lady looked at Jiang Xushu's eyes and immediately showed an embarrassed and ingratiating smile. She then lectured her grandson. You young people are just self-righteous, always thinking that others are secretly in love with you. Hurry up and apologize to Master Guan. She is your life-saving benefactor. Hearing his grandma's words, Pei Yuanqing felt as if a slap had hit him hard in the face. Wasn't he just being self-indulgent? During that time, facing the teasing of the people around him, he even felt good about himself. Even when facing Jiang Xushu, he had an aloof attitude. Looking at Jiang Xushu again, Pei Yuanqing only wished that time could go back, so he could return to the past and slap that conceited self to death. Xushu. However, before he could apologize, Jiang Xushu had already simply lifted her leg to leave. No need to apologize, just don't appear in front of me in the future. With that, she turned and left without any nostalgia. Pei Yuanqing watched her decisive and indifferent figure as she walked away, and this time he truly believed it. So it turns out, she never actually liked me. But why does he feel so empty inside? Like a sense of loss, yet also tinged with regret. Chapter 75. Officer, help me. Leaving the Pei residence, Jiang Xushu then brought the little ginseng doll with her to Lin Ruirui's home. Just as I reached the top of the stairs, I saw two hooligans blocking the Lin family's door, shouting at it. You two little bitches, think you're safe hiding at home? Who gave you the nerve to sue in court? You better withdraw the lawsuit right now, or I'll make sure you don't have a single good day. Without a doubt, this must have been sent by the Qin family. Although Guan Ruirui was involved in bullying, considering she was under 18 at the time, even if she were convicted, the sentence wouldn't be severe, and she might even get a suspended sentence. However, Qin Hao was involved in the rape of a minor, and with the online public opinion being so intense, the court will definitely not treat the matter perfunctorily. The Qin family initially hired internet trolls to smear Lin Rui's reputation online, because they were worried she would blame Qin Hao if she had a miscarriage. No one expected that this man, after being mentally disabled for a year, would actually recover, and the first thing he did after recovering was to sue him. The Qin family is currently gnashing their teeth at Lin Ruirui. It's said that they are also online, accusing and berating Lin Ruirui for being cold-hearted and ruthless, saying that their son was always thinking about her during the year she was paralyzed, only to be met with such revenge. The Qin family attempted to manipulate public opinion again, but this time with the support of the Jiang family's legal team and Jiang Huai's assistance. Netizens were not swayed by the Qin family's PR efforts. Instead, they criticized them for deliberately whitewashing the crime. Harm done in the name of love is still harm. It even suggests that being liked by this son is the worst luck imaginable. Jiang Sining had been following all of this online, so she wasn't particularly surprised at the moment. After hurling abuse for a while at the doorway, the two hoodlums turned around to see a stunningly beautiful girl, like a celestial fairy, standing behind them. The two people's eyes lit up at first, then they suddenly narrowed with a wicked glint. "Sis, how do you know this family?" "I know them," Jiang Xuxin said, her eyes sweeping over the two with a cool detachment. The smiles in their eyes deepened instantly. "They've met Lin Ruirui. The little girl is indeed pure and lovely. No wonder she could make the Qin family's young master become a beast." Their employer had warned them before that if the little girl was really stubborn and unyielding, they should let her taste other men. Maybe after that, she wouldn't have the energy to make a fuss. Two hoodlums came over today with the same intention, and now that they saw Jiang Xuxiu, the evil thoughts in their hearts grew even stronger. If this fairy-like little girl also knows this family, that would be even better. We can lock them up and play together. She only has herself to blame for keeping bad company. Who told her to let her friend defend the Qin family? Thinking that, one of them smiled and walked towards Jiang Xuxiu. Another person stood still, smiling as they said to the house, "If you don't open the door, don't blame us for having some fun with your friends first." That tone was full of malicious mockery, disgusting just to listen to. Ruirui Lin inside the door had been listening to the commotion outside. She huddled together with her mother, clutching her phone tightly, waiting for the police to arrive. But unexpectedly, she seemed to faintly hear Jiang Xuxiu's voice. Thinking of Master Zhang's appearance, Lin Ruirui's face changed. Forgetting everything else, she grabbed a stick nearby and opened the door. Beside her, Lin's mother even grabbed a kitchen knife and rushed out the door. The door burst open, and Lin Ruirui raised her stick, ready to fight the thugs outside. She had been weak once, but she wouldn't be weak again this time. Mother Lin held the same thought, picking up the kitchen knife with a fierce look. "You guys." Before the words could leave his mouth, he was stunned by the scene outside the door. Jiang Xuxiu stood unharmed, while at her feet, two thugs lay flat on the ground, their faces filled with pain and horror, yet they seemed unable to move as if pinned down by something. Master Su, are you alright?" Even though he looked fine, Lin Ruirui couldn't help but ask. Jiang Xuxiu only looked at the things in their hands. Her eyes slightly narrowed, with a hint of a smile. "It's nothing. Don't worry," she said, glancing at the two on the ground. "The police should be here soon." As she finished speaking, two police officers indeed came up from downstairs, and were stunned by the scene at the top of the stairs. "Who called the police with threats of harm?" "Them." Jiang Xuxiu pointed to the two people on the ground, unable to move. "Officer, help me, help me." Although the two hooligans were lying on the ground, they were conscious, their faces filled with fear, muttering incessantly. "This woman knows witchcraft. She's holding us here. Officer, help us." Indeed, no matter the age or profession, everyone calls the police uncle. The two young officers, however, listened with expressions of disgust. "Realistically, I should be calling you gentleman uncle based on your age." But he still stepped forward. "Everyone stop arguing, get up first, and come with us to the police station to make a statement." The two hoodlums were about to cry when they heard this. "No, it's not that we can't get up, it's this woman. She doesn't know what kind of witchcraft she's using. We really can't get up." The two young officers subconsciously looked at Jiang Xuxiu upon hearing this. Seeing her innocent and well-behaved appearance, and then looking at the two repulsive thugs, they instantly put on stern faces. "Stop talking nonsense and get up now." As he spoke, he reached down with both hands to grab the people on the ground. Just as the young policeman's hand was about to touch the arms of the two people on the ground, Jiang Xuxiu, standing to the side, subtly raised a finger. The weight that seemed to be pressing down on the two thugs suddenly lightened, and the little police officer easily hauled them up from the ground. Before the two hoodlums could react, the young police officer snorted coldly. "It was a lie after all. There you go, it's up and running, isn't it?" Without another word, I grabbed him and left. As both the complainant and the person involved, Lin Ruirui and Jiang Xuxiu, naturally went to the police station as well. Besides convicting the two thugs, it's also about indirectly identifying the person who ordered them, to completely ensure the safety of the Lin family mother and daughter. Jiang Xuxiu believed she could handle things on her own. Afterward, she would inform the Jiang family's lawyer, preferably implicating the Qin family as well, to prevent any future trouble. Little did she know that no sooner had she followed the police downstairs to the police station than the driver had directly called Jiang. Inside the Jianghai group, Jiang Yuqing, as the company president, was discussing upcoming project schedules with several RD departments. And Jiang, as one of the heads of the RD department, is currently reporting on his work. Suddenly, the phone he had placed on the table rang. Everyone in the conference room subconsciously turned their eyes to the phone. Jiang Yuqing frowned even more. He hates it when people are inattentive during meetings, failing to follow even basic procedures like muting their phones. Even if it's his own son, Jiang Yuqing will reprimand them. However, under Jiang Yuqing's gloomy and oppressive atmosphere, Jiang calmly picked up his phone, not only without rejecting the call, but answering it directly in front of everyone. Jiang Yuqing's face turned even uglier, and Jiang Yutong on the side was already prepared to put out the fire in time. Then, Jiang smiling and composed expression suddenly turned cold as he listened to the report on the other end of the phone. Even his beautiful peach blossom eyes narrowed into a dangerous arc. Chapter 76. Don't blame the Jiang family for bullying the weak. Jiang quickly hung up the phone and turned to Jiang Yuqing saying, Mr. Jiang, I have something I need to take care of first. Let's have Director Chen take over today's presentation. With that, he tossed the laser pointer he was holding to the person sitting next to him and made as if to leave the meeting room. Jiang Yuqing's face fell almost instantly, and he stopped him with a cold voice. Hold it right there. Who authorized you to just up and leave during a meeting? During work hours, you're? Without waiting for Jiang Yuqing to lecture him, Jiang simply turned his head away and said blandly, Xiu was taken to the police station, I'm going to pick her up. That one sentence instantly choked back the words that Jiang Yuqing was about to say. The next second, he stood up abruptly from his chair and announced with a cold face, Today's meeting is suspended. Then she lifted her leg and walked towards Jiang. I'll go with you. The people in the meeting room. A group of people subconsciously looked at Jiang Yutong. The company's vice president, who had been half risen due to his earlier words, cleared his throat, calmly stood up as he met everyone's gaze. Then, let's wrap up the meeting for now. Jiang Xiu truthfully finished her statement and was waiting for Lin Ruirui and her mother when she heard the sound of a car outside the police station. Everyone subconsciously turned their heads, only to see several luxury cars parked at the entrance. The car door opened, and several men in suits with serious expressions stepped out, the two at the front exuding a particularly strong presence. The group strode into the police station menacingly. The police station chief, hearing the commotion, hurried over and was startled when he saw who it was. President Jiang, what brings you here so suddenly? Is something the matter? Leading the group were Jiang Yuqing and Jiang, followed by the legal team from the head office. This kind of display, with the president of Jianghai Group coming in person, this had to be a major case. The police station chief had already mentally run through all the recent major cases that might involve the Jiang family. But he was clueless, completely clueless. I'm here to find. Just as Jiang Yuqing was about to speak, he heard Jiang Xiu's voice from inside, slightly surprised. Dad, brother? Even Jiang Xiu was a little confused at this moment. Jiang Yuqing's eyes flickered the moment he saw Jiang Xiu, and he quickly walked towards her. Jiang Huai's pace was equally fast, and they reached Jiang Xiu in a few steps. Are you all right? Were you bullied? They both asked in unison, their eyes filled with undisguised concern. Jiang Xiu's heart softened, and she obediently shook her head. I'm fine. What exactly happened? How did you end up at the police station? Jiang Yuqing couldn't help but ask. The police station chief, seeing how concerned the two were, understood that the young girl in front of him must be from the Jiang family. He immediately gave a questioning look to a nearby policeman. Jiang Xiu simply said, I ran into a couple of thugs, and I'm here to cooperate with taking a statement. Thugs. Jiang Yuqing and Jiang Huai's eyes instantly narrowed into dangerous slits. What kind of thugs dared to offend his family Xiu? The police station chief immediately put on a serious face as well. That's outrageous. I can't believe such a thing happened in my jurisdiction. Miss Jiang, don't worry, our station will definitely deal with those two thugs seriously. Jiang Xiu heard this and looked at the police station chief. I'm relieved to hear you say that. After all, those two were acting on someone's orders, and there might be retaliation later. Hearing that they even dared to retaliate, Jiang Yuqing's face darkened again. What exactly happened? At this moment, a junior police officer happened to bring over the case file, and the police station chief immediately signaled him to explain. The junior police officer immediately gave a brief explanation of what happened. Mainly, Lin Ruirui sued the Qin family's young master, and the Qin family hired thugs to threaten her into withdrawing the lawsuit. Unexpectedly, Jiang Xushu happened to be there, and that's how she got involved. The police station chief's expression immediately turned ugly when he heard that it was the highly publicized underage bullying incident online. After all, the victim, Lin Ruirui, was in his jurisdiction. After the matter escalated, he had asked the on-duty officers to pay more attention to this family, but he didn't expect them to dare to hire people to come to their door. The Qin family? Compared to what the police station chief was focused on, Jiang Yuqing was more concerned about the fact that the Qin family had indirectly threatened his daughter. Jiang Huai knew more clearly about the Qin family and Lin Ruirui, because Jiang Su and Jiang Xushu found the legal team through him. Jiang Huai would not stop them from caring about other people's affairs. He originally thought that with the deterrence of the Jiang family's legal team, the Qin family would have some scruples, but he didn't expect that they didn't have any scruples at all, and even dared to bribe hooligans to hurt them. In this case, they can't blame the Jiang family for bullying the small. The Qin family still has the time to bully a little girl now. It's just because they're idle. Then let them get busy. The Qin family probably never thought that the hooligans they bought not only failed to threaten anyone, but also attracted another big shot. Regardless of how Jiang Yuchen would deal with the Qin family later, Jiang Xushu picked up Lin Ruirui and sent her home. She came here today to send the little infant spirit to see Lin Ruirui for the last time. Lin Ruirui, who had her eyes temporarily opened, was stunned when she saw the little ginseng doll that was only the size of her palm. But when she realized that this was her newly formed child, her eyes instantly turned red. The little infant spirit couldn't speak, but it could feel the connection of blood. The moment it was released by Jiang Xushu, it kicked its short legs and floated to Lin Ruirui, rubbing its little head against her cheek. Without the cover of resentment, you could see the visible joy on the child's face. Lin Ruirui carefully tried to hold the little infant spirit in front of her, and felt its attachment to her, tears streaming down uncontrollably. Lin Ruirui once hated the existence of this child, and even rejoiced that it was gone, but that was all due to her hatred for Qin Hao. She always felt indebted to the child. Xushu, thank you. Thank you for bringing it to see me. Jiang Xushu looked at her, and only said. It was originally an unformed fetal soul, but it became a resentful infant because of the nourishment of the resentful thoughts in the teaching building. Although those resentful thoughts have been eliminated, its obsession with you still exists, and it may still be difficult to send it to reincarnation. This was also the problem Jiang Xushu realized after seeing its ginseng doll figure. A normal infant spirit already has a formed appearance, but it's only the size of a palm, and coupled with its attachment to its mother, forcibly sending it to reincarnation might provoke its resistance. Lin Ruirui's feelings for this child are complicated, but she ultimately can't bear the thought of it not being able to reincarnate. Then what should we do? If you're willing, you can raise it by your side in the form of a ghost child. As long as there are sufficient offerings and guidance, its staying by your side may bless you with a smooth future. Hearing Jiang Xushuan's words, Lin Ruirui was visibly stunned. The little infant spirit seemed to understand, and immediately spun around happily, then happily stuck close to Lin Ruirui. Seeing Lin Ruirui's silence, Jiang Xushuan pursed her lips and added, "There's also a second method, which is to forcibly sever the blood ties between you. As long as it lets go of its attachment to you, it can smoothly enter reincarnation." Still two choices. It just depends on which one Lin Ruirui wants to choose. Chapter 77. A Family of Three's Shopping Trip. Upon hearing this, Lin Ruirui lowered her eyes slightly, looked at the little ginseng doll flying in front of her, and remained silent for a long time, finally gritting her teeth, her voice trembling slightly. "I choose the second one." After saying this, Lin Ruirui seemed to be drained of strength and swayed slightly, looking at the confused little infant spirit in front of her. Tears fell uncontrollably again. I'm sorry. It's not that I don't want you. But she's only 18. She still has a long life ahead of her. If she raises this ghost child, she won't be able to forget the harm Qin Hao once caused her. She wants to start over. She wants to live a life without Qin Hao. Baby, I'm sorry Mom can't keep you. I'm sorry. Wah. By the end, Lin Ruirui was already sobbing uncontrollably. And the little infant spirit, at some point, had begun to float in the air. It seemed dazed and at a loss, looking at its mother with confusion in its small face. Until Lin Ruirui choked and said the last sentence. I don't want you anymore, you go. Hearing this, the little infant spirit's small body seemed to tremble suddenly. Jiang Shushuan lowered her eyes slightly, her gaze falling on the thin line between the little infant spirit and Lin Ruirui that others couldn't see. And with Lin Ruirui's words, the thin line seemed to suddenly break in the middle. The thin line broke and disappeared without a trace. Jiang Shushuan raised her hand, and a ray of light flew from her palm, directly enveloping the little infant spirit. This time, the little infant spirit didn't resist. I'm taking it away. Jiang Shushuan gently said this, without comforting Lin Ruirui, and turned to leave. Going downstairs, Jiang Shushuan was surprised to see Jiang Yuqing and Jiang Huai still waiting in the car. You're still here? She was indeed a little surprised. After all, Jiang Yuqing and Jiang Huai both had their own things to do. Taking the time to make a trip to the police station today was already rare enough. She didn't expect them to not have left yet. Jiang Yuqing pursed his lips, seemingly not knowing what to say. Fortunately, Jiang Huai was the talkative one. Since we're already out, there's no rush to go back. Jiang Huai was still sitting in the front seat, making room for Jiang Shushu. After she was seated, he asked, Is everything settled? Jiang Shushu nodded. Jiang Huai had personally witnessed her abilities and knew what she was busy with every day, but Jiang Yuqing did not. If he hadn't accidentally heard that she had gone to the police station today, he wouldn't even have known that she and Jiang Su had participated in the online bullying of minors. However, he was very gratified to see her relationship with Jiang Su improving. He always said that his daughter deserved to be loved by everyone. Although he thought so in his heart, Jiang Yuqing still maintained a calm demeanor. Jiang Huai asked again, Do you have any other plans? Jiang Shushu thought for a moment. Right now, apart from the little infant spirit's matter, she was basically free. As for sending the little infant spirit away, there was no rush, so she shook her head. That's great. Father said that after you return to the Jiang family, we haven't gone out together yet. Since we're all free today, why don't we go shopping and have some fun with you? Jiang Huai said with a smile, his tone gentle and refined. Jiang Yuqing glanced at his son. He wondered how he had the nerve to say he was free. Not to mention that his department's project was on a tight schedule. Jiang Yuqing originally had 3 meetings today, which he had just had his assistant cancel. It was because he said that after Shushu came home, they hadn't spent enough time with her. Jiang Yuqing thought it made sense, so he also had his assistant cancel a business dinner that evening. Clearing his throat, Jiang Yuqing looked at Jiang Shushu, a rare hint of warmth on his face. Yes, Dad is free today. Is there anything you'd like to do? Although Jiang Shushu didn't know where these two suddenly got the idea, but she had never actually tried going out with her father and brother since she was little. And for a moment she didn't know what was fun to do with her brother and father. Seeing the confusion in her eyes, Jiang Huai's heart softened, and he simply instructed the driver to drive. I don't think Shushu likes the dresses that second aunt prepared, so let's go shopping at the mall first. You can pick out your own clothes. Jiang Yuqing nodded upon hearing this. That's a good suggestion. Going to the mall was good. He could spend money on his daughter. Although he had transferred money to her before, he always felt that Shushu hadn't spent much of it. Seeing that the two of them were so enthusiastic, Jiang Shushu did not object. The 3 of them went directly to the largest shopping mall in High City, and Jiang Huai took them directly to the brand women's clothing area. Jiang Yuqing had never picked out clothes for his daughter before, and stood at the door like a door god. Jiang Huai, however, was much more enthusiastic and didn't feel awkward at all. He picked out clothes that he thought were suitable and had the sales assistants help with the matching. Jiang Xushu wasn't good at shopping and was forced to try on more than 20 outfits. She had good looks and a tall figure, so she looked good in everything. Jiang Huai thought every outfit looked good. Jiang Yuqing initially stood there as an invisible ATM, but later, seeing Jiang Huai enthusiastically dressing up Xushu, he couldn't help but join in. Xushu has fair skin. This color really suits her. This outfit is good, we'll take it. This set enhances your temperament, suitable. Saying that, she began to pick clothes in the store herself, not looking at the price, and asked the sales assistant to wrap up whatever she liked. The responsible sales assistant behind her was beaming. Seeing this, Jiang Yushu didn't change her clothes. Her eyes subconsciously turned to the outside of the mall, and she happened to see two girls walking by with milk tea cups, laughing. Before, she had been learning talisman techniques with her master, and basically had no time for herself, let alone going shopping and drinking milk tea with her good sisters. Her almond eyes followed for 2 seconds, and then quickly retracted. How shrewd was Jiang Huai, he immediately took out his phone and placed an order. Soon 3 cups of milk tea were delivered. It wasn't that Jiang Yushu had never had it before, but she still curved her eyebrows when she saw the milk tea and took small sips. Jiang Yuqing really hadn't had it before. He even looked at the milk tea in his hand with some disdain, but seeing Yushu sucking on the milk tea with curved eyebrows, his heart softened for some reason, so he accompanied her in drinking it. Leaving the address, they continued to the next store. 3 people with very outstanding appearances and obviously extraordinary identities were walking on the road, each holding a cup of milk tea. That incongruous scene, needless to say, attracted a lot of attention, and some people even secretly took pictures. Jiang Yushu was relatively sensitive to the gazes of others and quickly realized the problem. She looked at the haute couture suits on Jiang Yuqing and Jiang Huai, her small face slightly condensed. You are clearly not dressed for shopping. So Jiang Yuqing and Jiang Huai were taken into a men's clothing store. When they came out, the haute couture suits on them were gone, replaced by 2 sets of casual wear. Jiang Huai, needless to say, was already outstanding in appearance, and even in casual wear, he couldn't hide his temperament. Although Jiang Yuqing was older than the two, he was well maintained. After changing into casual wear, it weakened his aura, and at first glance, he was a charming, handsome uncle. Chapter 78. Business tycoons also post on moments. He was always a figure who only appeared in financial magazines or rich and famous lists. Even though he usually dressed meticulously, Jiang Yushu's words could make him change his attire and pretend to be young like young people. Even if he was looked at a few more times on the road, he didn't feel embarrassed. On the contrary, looking at the 2 children beside him, he suddenly recalled many years ago, when Yushu was born, he had imagined taking his wife and 2 children shopping and picnicking together. Now that vision has become 3/4 complete. But he didn't know when he would be reunited with the remaining quarter. Thinking of his wife, a hint of gloom and loneliness flashed in Jiang Yuqing's eyes, but he still didn't show any emotion on his face. In an afternoon, the 3 of them shopped and bought things, and then went to the game area of the mall, making a gesture to make up for Jiang Yushu's childhood regrets. Jiang Yushu said, "A little tired. More tired than drawing 20 talismans in one breath." But there was also some hidden happiness and liking. Until the 3 of them had dinner, watched the night view, and were preparing to go home, Jiang Yuqing suddenly stopped when he passed a photo studio. "It seems like we haven't taken any photos since Vivian came home." Kevin's voice was soft, carrying a hint of eagerness that contrasted with his usual composure. Hearing this, Harvey smiled and looked at Vivian. They exchanged glances and naturally didn't refuse. After spending the day together, Vivian seemed to have a different experience of her identity as a member of the Shaw family. Taking photos required a reservation, but that was not a problem for Harvey. Harvey directly found a photographer from a private studio, and the 3 of them took a family portrait. At the moment the photo was taken, Vivian could vaguely see the thin lines connecting her and the Shaw family becoming solid. She knew what that represented, but she no longer resisted. After taking the photos, Harvey asked the photographer to work overtime to edit them. So, when Lance was boredly scrolling through his moments on the sofa in the living room that evening, he unexpectedly came across two posts. One was from his uncle, Kevin. This business magnate, who only occasionally forwarded industry broadcasts, rarely posted a personal moment. The post only had one picture of the three of them. There were no words, but it spoke volumes. The other was from Harvey. His content was much more lively than Kevin's. In addition to the formal group photo that Kevin posted, he also included a 9-grid collage of the three of them shopping and drinking milk tea that they had taken privately today. He also added the text, "Dad insisted on taking my sister and me shopping." Although Vivian didn't post on Moments, she obediently liked both of their posts in order. Lance was instantly envious and jumped up from the sofa. "My dad. My sister went shopping without me." He suddenly howled, startling his father, who had just come home from working overtime. He subconsciously asked him, "Which sister of yours?" Jiang was still indignant. "Which sister else would I have? My own cousin. Sister Xiu." As he spoke, he took screenshots and sent them to the family group chat. Apart from a few younger members, the rest of the Jiang family rarely used Moments, so they wouldn't constantly pay attention. Clicking on Jiang Su's screenshots, the Jiang family members were all momentarily silent. Not to mention the younger generation, but even Jiang Yutong and Jiang Yumin couldn't find the words to describe what they saw. Their usually terrifyingly strict eldest brother actually went shopping with his child. Shopping was one thing, but he was also drinking milk tea. An old fogey who barely drank coffee and loved tea was drinking milk tea, and dressed like a young man. The two older Jiang brothers felt that they might not understand their eldest brother very well. Not only did they not understand, but the younger generation of the Jiang family looked on in disbelief. But compared to their eldest uncle's sudden affability, Jiang Han more keenly noticed something else, pointing at Jiang Su and asking, "You can see Jiang Xiu's likes, you've added her as a friend." Lu Xuexi's gaze was fixed on the family of three in the photo, and upon hearing this, her eyes turned to Jiang Su with a faint glint. Her expression held a subtle and inexplicable hint of blame. Jiang Su met her gaze, feeling inexplicably annoyed, but not wanting to talk to her. He turned to Jiang Han. "I already added her as a friend. She's my sister, can't I add her?" Jiang Han then remembered that this guy had transferred money to her to buy talismans before, and looked at Jiang Su as if the latter had betrayed them. But there was also a hint of dissatisfaction. Why did Jiang Xiu only add Jiang Su and not them? Was she looking down on them? Jiang Su's mother, Xuaningyu, ignored the children's squabbles and instead smiled. It's rare for eldest uncle to be in such a mood. It's nice to see them getting along so well as a family. She and Jiang Yutong were both busy and rarely went shopping and played with Jiang Su and Jiang Cheng. Seeing Jiang Su staring at his phone with such envy, she suddenly felt like she was neglecting her child. Yao Lin didn't respond, her beautiful eyes fixed on the family of three in the photo, her long hair slightly falling, just enough to conceal the insane coldness in her eyes. One photo, and the Jiang family members all had different reactions. But none of this had anything to do with Jiang Xiu. Because she didn't get home too late, Jiang Xiu, thinking of the little infant spirit in her backpack, decided to send it away tonight. For the reincarnation of Yin spirits, Buddhists focus on transcendence, but Taoists are not good at this. So Jiang Xiu usually asks underworld messengers to come and pick them up. Taking the little infant spirit to the back of the flower room downstairs, Jiang Xiu calculated the time and took out a summoning talisman. First, she swept the talisman over the little infant spirit to confirm it was contaminated with the little guy's Yin energy. Jiang Xiu pinched the yellow talisman with her fingertips, chanting Taoist incantations, and with a flick of her hand, the yellow talisman flew into the air. However, before the yellow talisman could burn, the previously well-behaved little infant spirit suddenly perked up. Ignoring Jiang Xiu, it kicked its little legs and flew in a certain direction with a whoosh. Jiang Xiuan. What was with that familiar maneuver? She had a vague premonition. Sure enough, when Jiang Xiu chased the little infant spirit out of the Jiang family villa, she saw a Maybach with golden light flashing in the back seat passing by not far away. Inside the car, Chu Beihe was casually flipping through his phone and happened to see Jiang Huai's post on Moments, which could be described as showing off. He clicked on it almost unconsciously and his dark eyes suddenly landed on a certain spot in the photo as he swiped through it mindlessly. His handsome eyebrows twitched slightly, and he was just about to examine it more closely when he felt something rapidly approaching him. Chu Beiha's mind tensed, and he subconsciously looked in the direction of the sensation. He saw a familiar little ginseng doll flying towards him in mid-air, passing right through the half-open car window. With a splat, it fell directly into his palm. Chu Beiha. Chapter 79. The little guy landed in his hand. The hand holding Chu Beiha's phone trembled slightly. His dark eyes lowered, and he looked expressionlessly at the little ginseng doll in his palm. The little ginseng doll didn't mind his coldness at all. Its little green bean eyes stared straight at him, and its small face even had a hint of a flattering smile. Then, while smiling, it rolled over in his palm. The veins on Chu Beiha's forehead twitched slightly. He finally confirmed that this was the one he had seen a few days ago. So, Chu Beiha raised his head indifferently, and saw someone running over from not far away and stopping the car. He knew it. Holding the little thing in his hand, Chu Beiha got out of the car. Jiang Yushu almost immediately rushed over, drawn by the dazzling golden light. Looking again, her own little infant spirit was rolling around in the man's hand. Jiang Yushu was a little surprised. This little guy kept running into the big boss, seemingly not worried about being eliminated by the golden light on him at all. Not only was it not worried, but it even seemed to be enjoying it. What the hell? Miss Jiang, aren't you going to take your thing back? Seeing that she hadn't reached out to take it back after watching for so long, Chu Beiha reminded her, enduring the mental discomfort, and specially emphasized yours. Jiang Yushu then reacted, quickly reaching out and grabbing the little guy back from his palm. Perhaps because the movement was too fast, the back of Jiang Yushu's hand inadvertently brushed against the palm of his hand. Chu Beiha only felt a slight itch in his palm, and before he could feel uncomfortable, the feeling was gone in an instant. Jiang Yushu didn't even realize it, and simply grabbed the little guy who was still kicking its little legs, and took out the red rope to tie it up again. Watching her movements, Chu Beiha suddenly thought of what he had seen in Jiang Huai's photo earlier. His phoenix eyes subconsciously followed her movements to her left palm. Unfortunately, because the light on the side of the road was not obvious, and Jiang Yushu was moving too fast, Chu Beiha didn't have time to see clearly before she had retied the little thing. Sorry, I was just about to send it away when it suddenly ran off. Logically, a spirit after the elimination of obsessions should only be thinking about reincarnation. But little Radish Head was clearly drawn to the golden light on this big shot. Looking at the almost blinding golden light before her, Jiang Xuxin felt more and more that this thing was extraordinary. I want to secretly grab a handful. Jiang Xuxin was thinking this when, before she could make a move, she heard Chu Beiche suddenly speak, rare curiosity in his voice. Send it away? Jiang Xuxin could only restrain her movements and explain. The resentment on it has been eliminated by you. Without resentment or obsessions, it can be guided by the psychopomp into reincarnation. Although Chu Beiche had already accepted the existence of spirits, he still felt a little strange hearing her speak of it so matter-of-factly. He couldn't help but ask, how is it guided? Jiang Xuxin opened her mouth, just about to speak, when she suddenly pointed behind him. Chu Beiche turned his head and saw a young man in black clothes and black pants standing not far away, wearing a black hat and a black mask. He was standing under a street lamp, but he didn't seem to have much presence. The driver standing on the other side not far away also saw the person who had suddenly appeared, and his heart skipped a beat. The security at Silver Bay No. 1 is considered top-notch in the entire Shanghai, and a person dressed so suspiciously shouldn't be able to get in. But judging from Miss Zhang's expression, she seemed to know the person. He saw the black-hatted young man walk up to Jiang Xuxin and say in a very businesslike tone, Ling Shi flash delivery, do you have a spirit that needs to be guided to the underworld? Chu Beiha. He subconsciously looked at Jiang Xuxin. Are the psychopomps of the underworld so modern now? Jiang Xuxin was also a little surprised. When did Ling Shi start a guidance service? How come I didn't know? The black-hatted young man said, This is a new cooperation project between the boss and the underworld. Today is the first trial run. Jiang Xuxin immediately understood. Although she was curious about where the boss behind Ling Ruirui got this kind of relationship, she didn't ask too much. She handed over the little infant spirit in her hand. She saw the black-hatted young man take out a mini weighing pan and put the little infant spirit on it. The weighing pan showed 9 grams. The black-hatted young man seemed to frown. This spirit doesn't weigh enough. As he spoke, he picked up the little infant spirit and looked at it, then said in a cold voice, "This is an unformed half-soul. The underworld cannot currently receive it." Jiang Xuxin was not surprised by this, and obviously knew it already. It is indeed an unformed infant spirit, grown from resentment, but its resentment has been cleared. It will take shape if placed in the underworld for a few years. Take it back first, and it will be its turn in a few years. As soon as the black-hatted young man heard this, he refused without hesitation. No, the underworld is already overloaded. The cooperation agreement reached between the boss and the underworld stipulates that non-acceptance targets must not be connected to the underworld without authorization. As he spoke, the black-hatted young man put the little infant spirit in Jiang Xuxin's palm. "Sorry, this order failed to be received." With that, he turned to leave. Jiang Xuxin was momentarily stunned. "Wait, can't you be a little flexible? I'll pay more." The black-hatted guy looked completely unyielding. "Sorry." With that, he turned and left without hesitation. Jiang Xuxin watched helplessly as his figure quickly disappeared into the darkness, feeling somewhat frustrated. The underworld messengers she encountered before weren't this difficult to deal with. Usually, even if the spirit was incomplete, a little hell money would smooth things over. What's this now? Is she stuck with it? Jiang Xuxin looked down at the innocent-looking little infant spirit in her hand, her lips twitching slightly. Chu Beihe watched from the side without saying a word. Although he found it fantastical, he understood this so-called spirit delivery service. After all, if the company has rules, they can't be changed arbitrarily. From this point of view, the boss is someone who understands corporate management. Turning his head, he saw Jiang Xuxin looking as if she had the weight of the world on her shoulders. It seemed to be the first time he had seen such an expression on the face of this young miss of the Jiang family. Secretly raising an eyebrow, he rarely took the initiative to ask, "What should we do if we can't guide this baby spirit?" Jiang Xuxin pursed her lips, seeming somewhat depressed. "If it can't be guided, I guess I'll have to raise this little radish head myself. Raise it until it's fully formed, then send it over." Although it wasn't a difficult task, Jiang Xuxin had no interest in raising a little ghost. Since entering this field, although she had seen many people raising little ghosts, she always felt that this path was not orthodox, not to mention that she herself belonged to the talisman sect. Although she thought so in her heart, since the underworld messenger refused to take it, she had no other choice at the moment. Somewhat dejectedly, she stuffed the little infant spirit back into her pocket, refusing the little guy's intention to bask in the glow of the big shot's favor. Chu Beihe watched her movements, his dark eyes deepening, and as she turned to leave, he suddenly stopped her. "What did you say the mark on my palm was before?" Jiang Xuxin was taken aback when he suddenly asked about that mark. "Still," she explained in a serious manner, "a protective mark, what's wrong?" "Nothing." Chu Beihe's voice was clear and cold, as if he didn't mean anything by it. Seeing that he had no special reaction, Jiang Xuxin didn't say much. She lifted her foot and quickly returned to the Jiang family villa. Chu Beihe watched her quickly leave, his eyes dark and unfathomable, eventually turning into a cold smile once more. Another lie,